June 6th, 1944, 9:15 in the morning, Normandy, France. Obergefreiter Franz Weber crouches in foxhole 8 kilometers inland from Omaha Beach. 29 years old. Father killed in Verdun, 1916. Wife Greta and 2 children, Klaus age 5 and Anna age 3, wait in Munich for letters that come less frequently now as Allied bombs turn German postal service into chaos. Weber fought since 1939. Poland, France, Russia. Seen everything war offers except what descends from sky this moment. Gray clouds hang low over Norman countryside. Dawn invasion at beaches still distant, rumble like summer thunder. Here inland quiet persists. German command pulling reserves toward coast, where American and British troops claw through sand and blood. Weber's platoon holds defensive line in case enemy breaks through. 3 anti-tank guns, 2 MG-42 machine guns, 30 infantry soldiers. Against paratroopers without heavy weapons, this is more than sufficient. Wehrmacht doctrine says so. Doctrine has not failed yet. Then Weber hears sound from above. Not bomber engines, not the familiar roar he learned to recognize by pitch and rhythm. This is different. This is whistle. Long descending whistle like giant bird falling from clouds. Looks up through morning mist. Sees enormous black silhouette dropping straight toward German positions. Wingspan monstrous. Maybe 30 meters. Maybe more. Fuselage massive and angular, reminding him of flying barn. Thing that should not fly, but somehow does. What Weber notices most is silence. This aircraft has no engines, no motors, no propellers spinning. Just dead quiet except wind whistling over fabric skin stretched across wooden frame. Glider. British glider, but 3 times larger than any intelligence briefings described. What are British dropping? Light artillery, jeep supply containers. Giant glider descends lower. Weber distinguishes 2 more identical shadows behind first. Landing formation, precision approach. They know exactly where they are going. First glider touches Norman Field 300 meters from German foxholes. Bounces once on rough terrain. Breaks with tail-dragging furrows through grass. Stops. Weber yells to his machine gun crew. To arms, paratroopers fire at glider before they unload standard procedure. Catch enemy vulnerable during exit. Kill them in doorway. MG-42 opens fire. Distinctive sound like tearing canvas amplified 1,000 times. Tracer rounds arc toward wooden giant. Pierce fabric. Punch holes through thin skin. But glider does not burn. Too far for incendiary rounds to ignite. Weber watches through binoculars as figures emerge from glider, but not through side doors like usual. Through nose. Entire nose section. Thing hinges upward like coffin lid, revealing black interior size of truck bed. And then from that darkness, something impossible drives into daylight. Tank. British tank. Light tank similar to Tetrarch in intelligence photographs. Weber studied those photos. Memorized silhouette. 7 tons of steel on tracks. 40mm gun, armor plate. Gunschnitze clanking. Engine already running, producing blue exhaust smoke. Turret rotating with mechanical precision. Gun elevating, aiming, straight at German positions. Weber cannot process what eyes show him. They drop tank from sky. From sky. In glider without engine. How is this even possible according to physics, according to engineering? According to everything he learned at technical school before war, glider weighs maybe 5 tons. Tank weighs 7 tons, together 12 tons. What aircraft can tow such mass through air? How does wooden structure withstand impact, force of landing 12 tons at speed? Undercarriage should collapse. Wings should tear off. Frame should splinter. But tank stands on Norman grass. Fact. Reality. Physics be damned. And opens fire. First shot hits German machine gun position. Direct impact. 40mm high explosive shell. Crew dies instantly. MG-42 goes silent. Second shot strikes anti-tank gun. Penetrates shield. Artillery piece overturns. Crew scatters. Third shot into foxholes. Shrapnel mows down infantry like scythe through wheat. Men scream, men die. Men realize they brought rifles to fight armor. Weber shouts, order, his voice cracking. Retreat. Retreat immediately. We have no weapons against tank, fall back to secondary positions. Platoon breaks. Runs. Leaves dead and wounded. Behind them, Weber hears two more explosions. Thunder of tank guns. Second and third glider unloading. Three British tanks in Wehrmacht rear area. Airdropped in 5 minutes without airfield. Without roads. Without warning. Straight onto empty field that yesterday was pasture for Norman cows. Impossible but accomplished. Understanding why requires going back. Back 3 years. Back to fury. Back to catastrophe that demanded desperate innovation. Back to moment when British Prime Minister eating breakfast looked at casualty reports and decided physics must bend to will. But first understand the man who would fly these wooden monsters into German guns. Understand American who volunteered for British war before Pearl Harbor forced America's hand. Understand engineer who believed mathematics defeat instinct when instinct gets men killed. Portland, Oregon. Autumn 1940. 3 years before Weber sees tank emerge from sky. Michael Reynolds sits at family dinner table. 23 years old. Fresh from MIT with aeronautical engineering degree June 1939. Working at Boeing designing bombers. Good job, safe job. Future stretching ahead like runway on clear day. Father Colonel William Reynolds reads newspaper. Mother Eleanor plays Chopin Nocturne on piano in next room. Apartment smells like Sunday dinner. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, and cooling on counter by window mother's apple pie. Cinnamon and sugar scent mixing with autumn air coming through screen. That pie, that particular recipe, Eleanor Reynolds learned it from her mother who learned it from her mother. Granny Smith apples, brown sugar, cinnamon stick grated fresh, butter crust, vanilla extract and filling, served warm with cream poured over. Taste of home, taste of safety, taste of everything America means when world burns overseas. Michael takes deep breath, announces decision that will change everything. I am volunteering for Royal Air Force. Britain needs pilots. They are accepting Americans. I leave next month. Father lowers newspaper. Long silence. Just Chopin from next room and smell of apple pie and weight of disappointment settling like fog. Then Colonel speaks. You are throwing away Boeing career to fight someone else's war. Britain will fall by Christmas. Hitler will invade. You will die for nothing. Britain will not fall if enough people help them. You are engineer, not warrior. You overthink everything. Combat requires instinct and aggression, not calculation. You will hesitate and die. Mother stops playing, intervenes from piano room without showing face. William, some men fight with brains, not just instinct. That is not weakness. That is different kind of strength. Father stands, leaves table. Michael sees disappointment in father's eyes. Same disappointment shown since childhood when Michael preferred mathematics to football. Calculation to action, understanding to doing. Father wanted warrior son, got engineer instead. This has been source of tension 23 years. Will be source of tension until one of them proves the other wrong. Mother emerges, sits beside Michael, takes his hand, says nothing, just sits. After moment brings slice of apple pie. Warm, cream poured over melting into cinnamon filling. Michael eats slowly, tastes every bite, knows this might be last time for years. War does not serve mother's apple pie. War serves powdered eggs and burnt coffee and rations that taste like cardboard. Your father loves you. He worries. He fought in France 1918, saw men die because they thought too long. He wants you to survive. I will survive by thinking, by calculating, by understanding physics instead of fighting them. Mother squeezes his hand. I know. That is why you will come home when others do not. October 1940. Michael sails to Britain, joins RAF as volunteer pilot. Common among Americans who believe stopping fascism now prevents stopping it later on American soil. Trains on bombers, learns British procedures. British discipline, British tea, which he cannot stomach after a lifetime of American coffee. But before sailing, before leaving Portland, one more thing happens that will keep him alive through years ahead. Boston, Massachusetts, July 1940, 3 months before Michael deploys. He marries Sarah Mitchell, met her MIT library 1938. She was studying mathematics at Radcliffe. He was studying aerodynamics, literally collided reaching for same textbook on differential equations. Looked at each other. She said, you first. He said, no, you. She said, we could share. They did. Shared textbook, shared library table, shared understanding that some people connect through equations, not small talk. Wedding simple, small chapel, father attends in uniform, mother plays piano, Sarah wears simple white dress, no bridesmaids, no groomsmen, just two people who understand each other in ways that matter when world demands understanding over emotion. Reception at Sarah's parents' house. Boston neighborhood with brick buildings and tree-lined streets. Sarah's mother serves coffee, real American coffee. Folgers, strong, black. Michael drinks it grateful. British will try converting him to tea. He will resist. Some things you do not compromise. And Sarah's mother serves apple pie. Different recipe from his mother's, but somehow similar. Cinnamon, sugar, vanilla, cream. American comfort food. Sarah catches his eye across room, smiles, knows what he is thinking, knows that pie means home, means safety, means everything they are leaving behind when he sails in 3 months. Wedding night, they talk mathematics. Most couples talk romance. They talk equations. Sarah shows him problems she cannot solve. Variable transformation during maximum stress. How to change equation from unsolvable to solvable by substituting different variable at peak difficulty. Michael works problem, solves it. Sarah kisses him, says you just described our marriage. When stress maximizes, we transform. We adapt. We solve together what neither solves alone. He does not understand yet. Will understand 3 years later when wooden glider carries him toward German guns and mathematics. Say survive, but instinct says panic. Will understand when Sarah's letters remind him transformation solves equations tradition cannot see. They have 1 month together. Then Michael deploys Britain. Sarah stays Boston teaching mathematics. Begins writing letters weekly. Blue paper always. Blue ink always. Handwriting precise as equations she teaches. Letters smell faintly of vanilla extract. Same vanilla she uses baking. Same vanilla his mother uses in apple pie. Scent of home preserved on paper crossing Atlantic. December 1941. Pearl Harbor. America enters war. But Michael already fighting. Already completed bomber training. Already flying combat missions. Already seen friends die. Already labeled too cautious by British commanders who value aggression over calculation. Sarah's letters arrive weekly without fail. She writes about teaching, about students, about father visiting, asking if Michael still overthinks everything. She tells father yes, and that is why Michael still breathes while others do not. Father does not respond, but Sarah sees something change in his eyes. Maybe pride. Maybe understanding that son fights differently, but fights nonetheless. Michael keeps letters in footlocker. Blue paper, blue ink, vanilla scent fading but never disappearing. Words about transformation, about variable substitution, about solving impossible through changing approach. Does not fully grasp meaning yet. Will grasp it when assigned to fly wooden giant. When mathematics meet war and only one survives. But before Michael flies, before he tests theories, before he proves calculation defeats instinct, must understand why Britain built flying barn-carrying tanks, must understand catastrophe that demanded innovation, must understand Crete. May 1941, Crete, Mediterranean island, 3 years before Normandy. German paratroopers fall from sky by thousands. Operation Mercury, most ambitious airborne assault in history. 10,000 men jumping over Greek island. Mission capture airfields. Defeat British garrison. Secure Mediterranean foothold. On paper, operation looks brilliant. In reality, becomes massacre. British tanks waiting. Matilda tanks in light armor. Commanders knew Germans coming. Radar spotted transport aircraft. Prepared welcome. Tanks positioned at drop zones. Machine guns sighted for overlapping fire. Artillery ranged. German paratroopers exit aircraft. Float down on silk canopies. Helpless. Defenseless. Cannot shoot while descending. Cannot dodge. Cannot do anything except fall and pray British miss. British do not miss. Tanks open fire on men in air. Shoot defenseless soldiers before boots touch ground. Those who land alive discover they carry rifles against armor. Containers with anti-tank weapons landed wrong places, with tourists across island, half smashed on impact from hard landings. German paratroopers lie in ditches, hide behind rocks, pray while British tanks methodically hunt them. Crush them under tracks. Grind them into Cretan soil. First 2 days, Germans lose 4,000 men, one-third of assault force. Catastrophic, unsustainable. Mission failure. Victory comes only because Luftwaffe gains air superiority. Bombs British tanks until they withdraw. But lessons seared into every surviving paratrooper, into every German commander, into Hitler himself. Paratroopers against armor is suicide. Need own tanks in assault. Hitler rages after Crete, summons paratroop commanders, screams at them in Berchtesgaden. Never again large airborne operations. Too expensive, losses unacceptable. Airborne forces dissolved. Paratroopers transferred to regular infantry. Germany draws conclusion assault without heavy weapons. Doomed. But British observe same battle. Draw opposite conclusion. London, Downing Street, October 1941. 5 months after Crete. Winston Churchill sits at desk. Breakfast tray before him. Eggs, bacon, toast, coffee. British attempt at American breakfast because Churchill loves American things. American resolve. American industry. American breakfast foods. Bacon sizzles. Smells like hope. Tastes like victory if Britain can hold until America enters war. Churchill reads intelligence report on Crete. Studies casualty figures. 4,000 Germans dead. British tanks did that. Armor defeated paratroopers. But analysis notes if Germans had owned tanks in assault outcome different. British armor would face German armor. Infantry would have support. Battle would be equal. Churchill sets down report. Lights cigar. Thinks. Then summons Air Vice Marshal Richard Gale, commander of RAF Airborne Forces. Gale arrives. Stands at attention. Air Marshal Churchill says exhaling smoke. Germans suffered defeat on Crete because they had no tanks in assault. Our tanks destroyed them. But if paratroopers had owned tanks, result would be different. You agree? Gale nods carefully. I agree, Prime Minister. But tanks weigh tons. Cannot drop them on parachute. They will smash. Need airfield for transport aircraft to land. Churchill waves cigar, dismissing objection like smoke. Then invent how to deliver tank by air without airfield. Glider, helicopter, whatever works. I need tanks falling from sky by 1943. That is order. Gale wants to protest, wants to explain this violates physics, violates engineering, violates everything known about aviation. But sees Prime Minister's expression, understands the argument futile. Churchill has decided physics must comply. Yes, sir. Tanks from sky by 1943. Gale leaves office bewildered. Walks London streets, tries to comprehend assignment. How to deliver 7-ton tank by air without airfield parachute cannot hold weight. Silk tears, cargo smashes. Helicopters in 1941 lift maximum 300 kilograms. Transport helicopters decade away in development. Leaves glider. But what glider can lift 7 tons cargo? Largest existing glider carries 30 soldiers, maybe 3 tons. Need glider more than twice that capacity. Need wooden aircraft larger than 4-engine bomber. Need something that should not exist but must. Gale returns to headquarters. Summons engineers. Issues impossible order. Build me glider that carries tank. They look at him like he suggested building ladder to moon. But orders are orders. Engineers begin calculating. Begin sketching. Begin understanding that sometimes war demands impossible, and impossible becomes possible because alternative is losing. Reading England, General Aircraft Limited Factory, November 1941. George Harrison, Chief Engineer. Age 42, receives assignment from Air Ministry. Design glider with 7-ton payload capacity. Must deliver Tetrarch light tank to enemy rear. Land on unprepared field. Unload tank in maximum 2 minutes. Completion deadline 18 months. Harrison sits at desk, drinks coffee, not British tea. American Folgers imported through Lend-Lease. Strong, black. Engineers need caffeine, need clarity, need something to keep them awake while solving problems that should not have solutions. He stares at specifications, 7 tons. Plus glider weight, plus fuel for tank, plus ammunition, plus crew, and total mass minimum 15 tons. 15 tons that must fly without engine, must land without braking, must unload in 2 minutes before Germans shell it to splinters. Harrison calls meeting. Engineers from Royal Aircraft Establishment, construction specialists, test pilots, military liaisons. They gather in conference room. Harrison lays out task. Need glider minimum 7-ton capacity. Must deliver Tetrarch tank behind enemy lines. Land on unprepared field. Unload 2 minutes maximum. Deadline 18 months. Questions. Silence. Then Chief Constructor Edward Dixon stands. Mr. Harrison, there are problems with technical calculations. 7 tons is tank weight. Also need glider weight structure, undercarriage fuel for tank ammunition crew. Total launch mass, minimum 15 tons. Dixon pauses, looks at Harrison. No tow aircraft in Royal Air Force can tow 15 tons. Maximum what Halifax can pull is 8 tons. With difficulty, Harrison frowns. So needs stronger tow aircraft. Dixon shakes head. Stronger does not exist. Halifax is our heaviest bomber. 4 Merlin engines at 1,600 horsepower each. Already pulling at limit capability. Harrison insists. Then make glider lighter. Use wood instead of metal. Remove everything unnecessary. Dixon protests. Mr. Harrison, glider will already be wooden. Metal needed for combat aircraft. Wood is plentiful. Problem is not material. Problem is physics. At landing, 15 tons hits ground at minimum 40 kilometers per hour. Enormous stress on undercarriage. Normal undercarriage breaks. Need reinforced supports, shock absorbers. That adds weight again. Circle closes. Meeting lasts 4 hours. Engineers calculate. Argue. Sketch diagrams. Coffee consumed. Cigarettes smoked. Gradually, monster outline emerges on blackboard. Wingspan 33 meters, like 4-engine bomber. Fuselage length 21 meters. Cargo bay 4.5 meters wide. Sufficient for tank. Undercarriage reinforced. 4 wheels front, 4 back all with shock absorption. Weight of empty glider 8 tons, 500 pounds. With tank total mass exactly 15 tons, 500 pounds. But main problem remains. How to unload tank in 2 minutes. Through rear ramp like normal glider. Too long, tank cannot reverse out. Must turn around inside. That is minimum 5 minutes. In that time, German shell glider. Destroy tank, kill crew. Through side doors, tank will not fit. 7 tons cannot squeeze through door opening. Dixon proposes radical solution. What if entire glider nose hinges upward, fuselage opens from front like can opener, tank drives straight forward down ramp, 90 seconds from landing to movement start. Harrison studies schematic, calculates stress. That weakens structure. Nose is load-bearing element. If we make it hinge, strength drops 30%. Dixon insists. We reinforce with beams. Hinges will be massive. Locks reliable. Only way to unload quickly. Harrison makes decision. Build hinge nose. Only way to quickly unload tank. Compensate strength with additional beams. Weight will increase. Let it increase. Halifax will somehow pull on afterburner. Project approved. Named General Aircraft HAMILCAR. After Carthaginian general who led elephants across Alps. British will lead tanks across English Channel by air. First prototype construction begins December 1941. Workers labor 3 shifts, 24 hours daily. War does not wait for normal schedules. Wood arrives from Canada. Ash and birch. Strong woods. Plywood glued in 8 layers. Impregnated with lacquer for waterproofing. Metal elements only in critical nodes. Hinges, locks, undercarriage, control, cables. Everything else wood. By June 1942, first HAMILCAR rolls from hangar. Workers stop work. Stare. This is not glider. This is flying barn. Angular. Massive. Hinged nose enormous. Opens entire front on hinges revealing cargo bay size of small apartment. Wingspan exceeds hangar width. Glider cannot fit inside. Must store outside under tarpaulin. Harrison looks at creation with mixture, pride and doubt. Built largest glider in world. 3 times bigger than any previous. But will this machine fly? Will undercarriage survive landing with tank? Will nose not collapse at first turbulence? Answer comes first test flight, June 27, 1942. Test pilot John Holmes climbs into cockpit. Instruments minimum. Controls heavy, control stick enormous. Requires physical strength to move. Pedals hard. Cable control runs through entire fuselage to rudders. No hydraulics. Everything mechanical like aircraft from Great War. Holmes understands if something fails, no time for parachute. Glider crashes in 15 seconds from 1,000 feet. This is one-way flight. Either lands successfully or dies trying. Halifax tow aircraft approaches. Ground crew attach cable. 300 feet of steel cable, 1 inch thick. Halifax engine roars, pulls. Glider starts rolling. Slowly, reluctantly. 8 tons resist movement. Halifax accelerates. Full power all 4 engines. Speed 45 miles per hour. 55. 70. Glider lifts off ground. Flies. Monster took flight. But flight is battle. HAMILCAR behaves like drunk elephant. Yaws left and right. Nose pitches up, then drops down. Holmes desperately pulls stick trying to stabilize machine. Arms ache from tension. Stick feels filled with lead. Turns with grinding sound. Pedals require full body weight. Cables tense like violin strings about to snap. At 1,000 feet, turbulence hits. Wind gust catches huge wing. Glider banks 30 degrees. Holmes sees ground inside window. Cranks stick back. Glider slowly, painfully, slowly straightens. Sweat floods eyes under leather helmet. This is not flying, this is wrestling physics. 20 minutes Holmes maintains control, then signals disconnect. Cable releases, glider free, and then worse begins. HAMILCAR without tow is gliding brick. Descent 3 feet per second, very fast for such mass. 3 minutes to reach runway. Holmes turns glider, aims at airfield below. Wind blows left, corrects, blows again. Controls at low speed barely respond. Rudders weakly react. Glider floats like barge. Altitude 300 feet. Runway ahead. Holmes deploys flaps. Speed drops to 60 miles per hour. 150 feet. 60 feet. 30 feet. 10. Ground. Impact. Tremendous blow. Holmes thrown forward. Straps cut into shoulders. Crash. Grinding. Glider bounces on undercarriage. Drops again. Rolls down runway. Front left wheel bursts. Tire explodes. Glider tilts. Wing scrapes ground. Grinds on concrete. Finally stops 600 feet from runway start. Holmes exits cockpit on shaking legs. Arms trembling. Engineers run. Inspect damage. Front undercarriage broken. Shock absorber cracked. Wheel torn. Wingtip dented. Harrison notes in logbook undercarriage insufficient. Must reinforce supports double strength. Shock absorbers stronger. Wheels larger. That is another 400 pounds weight. That was flight with empty glider. When they load 7-ton Tetrarch weight reaches 15.5 tons. Halifax physically cannot pull such load on standard power. Engineers calculate options. Can force engines. Raise power from 6,400 to 7,000 horsepower. But that cuts engine life in half. Halifax must be scrapped after 5 tows instead of 50. Expensive. But no alternative exists. Second test flight 1 week later. This time with ballast. Sandbags weighing 7 tons distributed in cargo bay. Not tank yet, too early, but need to test weight. Holmes in cockpit again. Navigator beside him in right seat. 2 men needed to control loaded HAMILCAR. 1 cannot manage alone. Takeoff worse. Halifax screams all 4 engines. Acceleration crawls. Speed increases painfully. 80 miles per hour. 90. 100. HAMILCAR still on ground. Wheels thunder on concrete. 110. 120. 130. Finally liftoff. Glider reluctantly rises. Halifax pulls with maximum effort. Speed drops to 140 miles per hour. 20 miles per hour slower than safe minimum. At 600 feet, Halifax radio operator reports temperature critical. Engines overheating. Oil temperature 110 degrees. Normal is 80. 10 more degrees and motor sees. Harrison makes decision from ground via radio. That is working altitude. No higher needed. Assault will be low level. 600 feet sufficient. Test continues. Holmes releases from tow, glides toward runway, but with 7 tons ballast behavior completely different. Descent 4.5 feet per second. Less time to maneuver. Holmes misjudges approach. Too high. tries to stretch glide. Altitude melts. 100 feet, 50, 20, will not make runway, lands on field beyond pavement. Impact 3 times harder than first test. Ground uneven, bumps, glider bounces, slams fuselage. Undercarriage cracks. Front right wheel tears completely off. Support breaks. Nose plows into earth. Cargo bay opens. Sandbags fly forward. One hits navigator in back. Knocks him unconscious. Holmes strikes head on instrument panel. Blood streams down face. Glider stops after 100 meters. Turns sideways, one wing pointing up. Nose in dirt. Undercarriage destroyed. Ambulance takes navigator with concussion and broken ribs. Holmes exits with cut forehead requiring 12 stitches. Harrison inspects wreckage. Shakes head. Undercarriage still insufficient. Must be 4 times stronger. That is another 300 pounds. Weight of empty glider now 8 tons, 800 pounds. With tanks 16 tons, 800 pounds total. But Harrison does not quit, does not recommend program cancellation. Because alternative is sending paratroopers against tanks like Germans at Crete. Alternative is 4,000 dead like Crete. Alternative is losing, so he returns to drawing board, reinforces, recalculates, rebuilds, tests again and again and again. By March 1943, HAMILCAR works. Empty glider flies safely, lands without braking, ready for next phase. Training pilots who will fly it into combat. Men like Michael Reynolds, American volunteer, MIT and engineer, husband to Sarah, son to disappointed father, man who believes mathematics defeat instinct, man who will prove it or die trying. Training begins April 1943, but that is story for next part. Story of how 120 men volunteer and 78 die learning to fly wooden barn. Story of how Reynolds survives through calculation when others perish through instinct. Story of how innovation demands blood before becoming routine. For now, understand this. June 27, 1942. First HAMILCAR flew. 3 years later, almost today, these gliders will drop tanks on Normandy, will drop tanks on Holland, will drop tanks on Germany itself, will prove Churchill correct, will prove physics bend to will when will is strong enough and mathematics accurate enough and men brave enough to fly machines that should not fly but do anyway because war demands impossible. Franz Weber will witness this June 6, 1944. Will see tank emerge from wooden giant, will fail to comprehend, will spend 31 years trying to understand until he finds American pilot who flew it and asks simply how, and Reynolds will answer mathematics, physics, and wife who taught me transformation solves equations tradition cannot see. But first, Reynolds must survive training, must survive when 65% of volunteers do not, must prove father wrong about hesitation, must prove Sarah right about calculation, must learn to fly wooden giant into hell and return alive to eat mother's apple pie one more time. That story begins next. Story of blood and mathematics, story of innovation and sacrifice. Story of proving different is not deficient when different brings men home alive. Nether Avon Glider Training Center, England, March 1943, 2 years before victory, 1 year before Normandy. Captain Michael Reynolds stands in hangar before HAMILCAR with 22 other volunteer pilots. All pass selection from 1,000 candidates. All have minimum 500 flight hours. All considered best RAF offers. But Instructor Major Peter Lawson looks at them without illusions. Knows statistics better than they do. From these 22 in 6 months, maybe 12 will breathe. Maybe 15 if luck holds. Maybe 8 if luck breaks. Lawson fought in France. Watched friends die. Learned that lying to soldiers about danger does not save them. Truth saves them when truth forces preparation. Gentlemen, Lawson says, voice flat, emotionless, you passed basic preparation on light gliders. Now begins specialization on HAMILCAR. This is most dangerous glider in world. Killed 18 pilots in last 8 months. Be ready to become 19 and 20. Does not beautify. Does not raise morale with patriotic speeches. Simply states fact. HAMILCAR is Russian roulette with 3 bullets in 6 chambers. Every third flight might be last. Every takeoff contains possibility You return in box instead of cockpit. Reynolds listens, calculates. 3 bullets, 6 chambers equals 50% mortality. But Lawson said 18 dead 8 months. How many flew in that period? Request statistics after briefing. Lawson provides numbers. 78 pilots trained on HAMILCAR since program started. 18 dead, 23 injured severely. 41 continue service. Success rate 52%. Worse than 50-50. Worse than coin flip. Reynolds writes numbers in notebook. Shows equations to navigator beside him. Lieutenant Thomas Hayes from Liverpool. Hayes whistles low. Captain, those odds are worse than bomber crews over Germany. And bomber crews have 10% survival rate. Reynolds nods. Then we calculate better than they did. We understand physics they ignored. We survive through mathematics. Hayes wants to believe. Reynolds speaks with confidence that comes from MIT degree and Boeing experience, and certainty that engineering defeats chance when properly applied. But confidence has not kept 18 men breathing. Confidence did not prevent their widows receiving telegrams. Confidence is theory. Landing is practice. Practice kills when theory fails. First week, theory only. Learning construction, aerodynamics, balance controls. HAMILCAR resembles no other glider. Center of gravity shifts depending on cargo. With empty hull, glider balanced normally. Controls responsive. With tank and forward section, center of gravity shifts forward 5 feet. Glider becomes nose heavy, tends to drop nose down. Pilot must continuously pull stick towards self. Arms tire after 5 minutes flight. After 30 minutes, arms fail, hands cramp, shoulders burn. This is endurance test as much as skill test. Second week, simulators. Primitive wooden cockpit mock-up on springs. Imitates rolling shocks. Instructors shake mock-up while pilots try maintaining level. Sounds simple. Is torture. After half-hour training, arms shake. Fingers refuse to bend. Shoulders scream. 3 pilots removed from program. Cannot handle physical demands. 2 week. War has no sympathy for weakness. Third week, first flights, but not on HAMILCAR. Too early, too dangerous. First on smaller Horsa glider. Horsa also large, carries 30 soldiers but 3 times lighter than HAMILCAR. Controls gentler. Pilots learn towing, takeoff, landing basics. From 22 remain 19. 1 quit. 1 failed medical after simulator induced heart palpitations. 1 crashed Horsa landing. Missed runway. Drove into forest. Died instantly. Glider smashed against oak. Investigators found pilot error. Misjudged altitude. Thought he was higher than reality. Instinct failed. Mathematics would have shown true altitude through rate of descent calculation. But pilot trusted eyes, not equations. Reynolds notes this. Writes in journal that night, instinct betrays, mathematics reveal. Must trust calculations over feelings. Over visual perception. Over everything except numbers. Fourth week, first HAMILCAR flight. Empty, no cargo. Lieutenant James Carter, first in cockpit. American like Reynolds, from Boston like Sarah. Instructor Lawson beside him, right seat. Takeoff, altitude gain 600 feet. 10 minutes circling, flight. Should be simple. Carter is experienced pilot, 500 hours. But Carter feels difference immediately. Stick does not move at all first 3 seconds. Then suddenly jerks. Glider sharply tilts. Carter panics, corrects too sharply. Glider tilts other direction. Oscillating, left, right, left, right. Lawson takes controls. Stops oscillation with smooth movements. Explains calmly. Cannot jerk stick. Controls have slack delay. Move stick cables, tense rudders, turn glider reacts. But between your movement and glider reaction passes 1 second. Must adapt. Anticipate. Move stick smoothly with advance. Carter tries again. Better but imperfect. Landing worse. Approaches too fast. Flares too late. Hits hard. Bounces. Hits again. Undercarriage groans. Holds, but barely. Carter exits cockpit pale. Hands trembling. Lawson writes in logbook. Carter requires additional training. But Carter will get no additional training. War schedule tight. Next week, Carter flies solo. Week after that, Carter dies when undercarriage collapses on landing and glider cartwheels. Nose crushes cockpit. Carter crushed inside. 19 becomes 18. Reynolds flies his first HAMILCAR, April 15, 1943. Hayes as navigator. They study previous flights, review every crash report, calculate what went wrong, build mental model of correct approach. Take off smooth. Reynolds anticipated delay. Moves stick gently. Small inputs. Glider responds predictably. Altitude 600 feet. Circles airfield. Hayes calls out altimeter readings. Reynolds calculates descent rate. When time comes to land, Reynolds knows exactly his glide slope, knows exactly his speed, knows exactly when to flare. Landing firm but controlled. No bounce. Straight line. Perfect. Lawson watching from ground. Writes in logbook. Reynolds M. exceptional. Recommend immediate progression to loaded flights. But before loaded flights comes pattern interrupt. Comes understanding that while British struggle building wooden gliders, Germans face same problem. Attempted same solution. Failed catastrophically. Germany 1942. Messerschmitt factory. While Herrewithen designed HAMILCAR, German engineers designed Messerschmitt Me 323 Giant. 6-engine transport glider later fitted with engines. Goal identical, deliver heavy cargo, including tanks to battlefield without airfield. Me 323 could carry 20 tons. Larger than HAMILCAR. More powerful, but required 3 tow aircraft. 3 Bf-110 heavy fighters pulling 1 glider. Operational nightmare. Coordination complex. If 1 tow aircraft failed, glider crashed. And 3 fighters occupied doing tow duty meant 3 fighters not defending German skies. Me 323 program built 200 aircraft, used in Mediterranean, North Africa, Crete. Then May 1943 disaster. Allied fighters intercepted formation of Me 323s crossing Mediterranean. Shot down 14 of 16 in single engagement. 70 tons of cargo lost. Hundreds of men killed. Program abandoned. Germany concluded large gliders impractical. Britain studied German failure. Learned lessons. Single-tow aircraft, not 3. Smaller glider, not larger. Wood, not metal to reduce weight. Specialized mission, not general transport. HAMILCAR succeeded where Gigant failed because British engineers calculated better. Understood that bigger is not always better when physics constrain. Reynolds learns this history during ground school. Understands that innovation requires learning from others' failures. Germans tried, Germans failed. British will succeed because British learn from German mistakes. Mathematics improve through iteration, through failure analysis, through understanding why something broke so you build it stronger. This is engineer thinking. This is what separates Reynolds from pilots who trust instinct. Reynolds studies failure, learns from death, applies lessons. When his turn comes to fly loaded HAMILCAR, he survives because he knows what killed others. May 1943. Training intensifies. Now loaded flights. Sandbags simulate tank weight. 7 tons in cargo bay. Behavior completely different from empty glider. Of 18 remaining pilots, 5 die in May alone. 1 on takeoff when cable snaps and glider stalls immediately. Falls from 100 feet. No altitude to recover. Crashes. Pilot dead. Navigator paralyzed. 2 more on landing when they misjudge approach with heavy load. Come in too steep. Cannot recover. Slam into ground at 70 miles per hour. Gliders disintegrate. Crews die. Another when turbulence at altitude flips glider inverted. Tow cable wraps around wing. Rips it off. Glider spirals. Crashes. Final one in accident on ground. Mechanic fails to secure cargo. Sandbags shift during takeoff. Center of gravity moves aft. Glider pitches up. Stalls. Falls. Explodes. 5 dead in 4 weeks. 18 becomes 13. Reynolds writes to Sarah every death. Describes what happened. Analyzes mathematically what failed. She writes back with equations. Differential equations describing rate of change during crisis. She shows him how small input changes at critical moment produce large output differences. How saving glider requires understanding inflection point where disaster becomes inevitable versus where recovery remains possible. One letter arrives May 20th, 1943. Blue paper. Blue ink. Vanilla scent fading after Atlantic crossing but still detectable. Reynolds opens it in barracks. Reads, Dearest Michael, I heard about Lieutenant Morrison's crash. I know you witnessed it. I know you are questioning whether to continue. I understand fear because I feel it every day you fly. But understand this, Morrison died because he reacted instead of calculated. Pulled back stick when he should have pushed forward. Instinct said climb. Physics said descend to gain speed. Instinct killed human. You survive because you think, because you calculate, because at moment of maximum stress, you transform a problem from unsolvable to solvable. Remember differential equations. Remember variable substitution. When everyone panics, you substitute different variable. You change equation. You solve what others cannot see solution for. Your father called yesterday, asked if you are still alive. I said yes. He asked how you survive when so many die. I told him because your son thinks while others react. Because calculation is courage when calculation keeps you breathing. Come home to me, solve the equation of survival, transform death into life through mathematics. Your wife who believes in your numbers. Sarah. Reynolds folds letter, places in flight, suit pocket over heart with previous letters. 12 letters now, 12 weeks of training, 12 reminders that mathematics matter, that thinking defeats instinct, that Sarah waits in Boston teaching students and baking apple pie and believing her husband survives because his mind is weapon sharper than reflexes. That night in mess hall, Reynolds eats powdered eggs that taste like cardboard and drinks burnt coffee that tastes like oil and unwraps Hershey's chocolate bars Sarah sent in care package. Chocolate melts on tongue. Sweet, rich, taste of America, taste of home, taste of reward for surviving another week. Shares chocolate with Hayes, with other surviving pilots. 11 men left from original 22, 50% casualty rate, and training not finished. Still 3 weeks until graduation. Still 3 weeks where death hunts them. But Reynolds will survive, and Hayes, and 8 others. 10 will graduate, 12 died, from 22, math clear, brutal, honest. 3,000 miles away, Sarah does not know yet that Michael survives. Letters take 2 weeks crossing Atlantic. But she knows and way wives know. Knows because universe would not be so cruel as to kill man who thinks this clearly, who calculates this carefully, who loves mathematics in her in equal measure. Boston, May 21st, 1943, day after letter sent. Sarah Reynolds stands at blackboard teaching differential equations to high school seniors. Chalk in hand, equations sprawling across board. Students watch with mixed comprehension. Some understand, some pretend. Some gave up understanding weeks ago and just memorized formulas. She explains transformation. Explains how changing variables at critical moment converts impossible equation to solvable equation. How substitution reveals answer hidden in original form. Students nod. Copy notes. Do not fully grasp that she teaches them not just mathematics, but life philosophy. That transformation applies to everything. To war, to survival, to marriage separated by ocean. After class, she walks home through Boston streets. Spring emerging, trees budding, air warming. War feels distant here, feels abstract. No bombs, no gunfire, just newspapers with casualty lists and telegrams arriving at neighbors' houses and gold stars appearing in windows. Sarah's window has no gold star, has blue star. Husband in service, still alive. But blue stars become gold stars when telegrams arrive, when Western Union messenger knocks, when War Department regrets to inform. Sarah refuses to imagine that telegram, refuses to picture messenger, refuses to plan funeral. Instead goes home, puts on apron, begins baking. Apple pie, her mother's recipe. Different from Michael's mother's recipe, but similar in ways that matter. Granny Smith apples, cinnamon, brown sugar, butter crust, vanilla extract. Same vanilla she uses in letters so scent reaches Michael across ocean. Bakes for students, bakes for church social, bakes because baking is mathematics applied. Ratios, temperatures, times, chemistry converted to food, science made delicious. This is what she shares with Michael. Understanding that everything reduces to numbers. Everything solves through calculation. Everything transforms through proper variable substitution. Pie bakes, kitchen fills with cinnamon smell. Smells like home, smells like safety, smells like America untouched by war, directly but touched indirectly through every man overseas, through every wife waiting, through every mother praying. Knock on door interrupts. Sarah tenses. Telegram. Gnome too early. Mail does not arrive until afternoon. Opens door. Colonel William Reynolds stands in doorway. Michael's father, uniform pressed, shoes shined, face stern as always. But something different in eyes, something like worry wearing through discipline. May I come in, Sarah? Of course. Please. They sit in living room, smell of baking pie between them. Sarah offers coffee. Colonel accepts. She pours Maxwell House. Strong, black, no sugar, no cream. Military coffee. Father and son drink same way even if they see world differently. I received letter from Air Ministry, Colonel says, notifying me that Michael's training unit suffered casualties. 12 men dead. I assume Michael still lives, or you would have received telegram. He lives. I received letter last week. He is well. Colonel drinks coffee. Silent moment, then speaks. How does he do it, Sarah? How does he survive when so many die? He was never aggressive, never warrior type, always thinking instead of acting. In combat, that gets men killed. Hesitation is death, but somehow he lives while others die. I do not understand. Sarah meets his eyes, speaks with certainty. He survives because he thinks, because he calculates, because when everyone else panics and reacts on instinct, Michael solves equation. He understands physics, understands that glider behaves predictably according to mathematics. Others trust feelings, trust reflexes, trust instinct. Instinct betrays them. Michael trusts numbers. Numbers do not betray. Colonel frowns. But war requires quick decisions, no time for calculation in combat. Sarah shakes head. Michael does not calculate slowly. He calculated already. Before takeoff, he knows every variable. Knows weight, knows wind speed, knows altitude, knows glide ratio. When crisis happens, he already knows answer because he prepared. Others react to surprise. Michael eliminated surprise through preparation. That is why he survives. Colonel silent, processing, then speaks quietly. I wanted warrior son. Wanted aggressive fighter who charges without thinking. I got engineer who thinks everything through. I was disappointed. I showed that disappointment. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe thinking is different kind of courage. Maybe surviving through intelligence matters as much as dying through bravery. Sarah reaches across table, touches Colonel's hand. First time she ever touched him. He stiffens but does not pull away. Your son has courage, different courage. Courage to trust calculations when instinct screams otherwise. Courage to be different when different keeps him alive. He will come home because he thinks. And when he comes home, you will tell him you understand that thinking saved him when reacting would have killed him. Colonel nods, blinks moisture from eyes, stands. May I take slice of pie? Smells like my wife's recipe. Smells like home. Sarah cuts generous slice, wraps it, hands it to Colonel. Tell Eleanor I used her vanilla. Michael wrote me about it. House smell reminds him of home. I wanted to send that reminder across ocean in every letter. Colonel takes pie, nods, leaves. Sarah watches him walk away, understands something shifted. Father beginning to see son differently, beginning to respect thinking over reacting, beginning to understand that courage has many forms, and Michael's form keeps him breathing. She writes letter that night, tells Michael about father's visit, about conversation, about beginning of reconciliation, mails it next morning. Blue paper, blue ink, vanilla extract dabbed on corner. Letter will reach Michael in 2 weeks, will reach him days before D-Day, will remind him that father understands now, that coming home matters, that survival through thinking is victory. England, June 1944, training complete, 42 qualified HAMILCAR pilots from 120 who started, 78 dead or injured or removed from program, 65% attrition before combat, statistics unprecedented, but 42 remain. 42 who mastered wooden giant, who learned to fly 15 tons without engine, who survived when mathematics said most would not. Reynolds among them, Hayes among them, 8 others from original 22, 12 died. But Reynolds calculated, Hayes calculated. They studied crashes, learned from deaths, applied lessons, survived. Now comes assignment, Operation Overlord, D-Day, Normandy invasion, largest amphibious assault in history, and HAMILCAR gliders will prove concept. We'll drop tanks behind German lines. We'll demonstrate that Churchill's impossible demand became possible through engineering and sacrifice and blood of 78 men who died making it work. June 1st, 1944. Final briefing. Air Vice Marshal Gale addresses assembled HAMILCAR pilots. 42 men in room. How many will breathe July 1st? Statistics say 20, maybe 25. Half will die or be captured or injured beyond return. Gentlemen, you trained for this moment. June 6th, we launched largest amphibious invasion in history. Normandy coast. Your mission: deliver tanks behind German lines before they understand what happens. Capture bridges, hold key intersections. Delay German reserves 6 hours. Just 6 hours. That is all infantry needs to establish beachhead. Gale pauses. Face serious. I will not lie. Many will not return. German flak will be intense. Landing zones unknown. Fields may be mined. Odds against survival. But if you succeed, you change war. You prove innovation defeats tradition. You show tanks can fly. Silence in room. Men exchange glances, each calculating own survival odds, each understanding they volunteered for this, each accepting that tomorrow might be last day. Reynolds thinks of Sarah, of father, of promise to return, of understanding that sometimes mathematics say survive, but reality says die anyway. Cannot calculate everything, cannot predict every variable, can only prepare, can only think clearly, can only trust that preparation matters when chaos erupts. Lieutenant David Mitchell, age 26, Philadelphia, receives tank assignment. Tetrarch number 7. Will load in a Reynolds glider. They will fly together, land together, fight together, or die together. Mitchell's 3 sisters sent letter yesterday. Arrived morning mail. Smells like marinara sauce and fresh bread. Maria, age 20, writes about planning welcome home party. Elena, age 18, about saving money from factory work. Sophia, age 16, about missing big brother. All count days until war ends and David comes home. Mitchell shows letter to Reynolds in barracks that evening. Captain, I trust your mathematics. You kept every pilot who flies with you alive in training. I trust you do same in combat. Reynolds takes letter, smells marinara sauce, smells like family, smells like reason to survive beyond duty. Lieutenant, mathematics only predict, do not guarantee. But I will do everything calculation allows to get us both home to our families. They shake hands, American officer and American tanker about to fly British wooden glider into German-occupied France carrying British tank. War creates strange partnerships. June 5, 1944, 2100 hours, evening before invasion. 30 HAMILCAR gliders lined on RAF Tarrant Rushden airfield. Each carries Tetrarch tanks 7-ton steel ready for flight. Crews conduct final checks. Maps, coordinates, landing zones. Targets different for each group. Bridges over Orne River. Road intersections. Hills overlooking beaches. Mission occupy key points behind German lines before Germans understand what happens. Reynolds stands by HAMILCAR number 17, smoking last cigarette before takeoff. Does not usually smoke, but tonight feels appropriate. Tobacco harsh on throat, makes him cough, but settles nerves somehow. Mitchell climbs from tank, approaches with flask. Captain sip for luck. Reynolds takes drink. Bourbon, American, burns throat worse than cigarette. Good burn, cleansing burn, reminds him of home, of bars in Portland, of father drinking bourbon after dinner while discussing war. Thanks, Lieutenant. We both need luck tonight. Germans will shoot everything they have. Mitchell nods, looks at sky, clear, stars visible, moon emerging from clouds. Good visibility, can distinguish ground, better than landing blind. Reynolds agrees. Calculated landing requires seeing field. Flying into darkness without visual reference is death. Tonight moon helps. Physics help, mathematics help, but luck helps too. Sometimes luck matters more than calculations. 21:30, command to board. Crews enter machines, pilots into glider cockpits, tank crews into tanks inside gliders. Mitchell seals hatch, activates intercom. Hear me, Captain, loud and clear. Prepare yourself. In 5 minutes we launch. Halifax tow aircraft approach one by one. Attach cables. 30 pairs ready for takeoff. Largest glider operation in history to date. Proof of concept. Proof that wood and mathematics and dead pilots' lessons create innovation that matters. 21:41 pair launches. Halifax roars engines, pulls glider, takeoff, climb, multitude. Behind them, second pair. Third, fourth. Every 2 minutes, another pair rises. After 1 hour, all 30 airborne. Formation heads south toward English Channel. Altitude 800 feet. Speed 145 miles per hour. Course 180 degrees straight at Normandy. Reynolds flies mid-formation. Around him, gliders left and right. Navigation lights blinking in darkness. Moon emerged from clouds fully. Good. Visibility improved. Can distinguish ground below. After 1 hour, they cross English coast. Before them, black water of Channel. 25 miles of water. 12 minutes flight. If Halifax engine fails over water N, cannot swim from glider with tank. But engines work smoothly. Cross Channel center. Ahead appears from French coast. Reynolds sees flashes below. Started. Fleet bombarding German fortifications. Thousands of guns firing simultaneously. Coast in flames. Assault going full force. Infantry storming beach. But here at 600 feet, silence. Just roar of tow aircraft engines and wind whistling through gaps in glider fuselage. 22:05 hours. Crossing coastline. Now over France. Over German-controlled territory. Radio operator Halifax reports to Reynolds. To drop point 10 miles. 7 minutes flight. Prepare for release. Reynolds passes to Mitchell. 7 minutes to assault. Check tank. Mitchell starts tank engine inside glider. Motor fires. Thumps. Exhaust vents through special pipe outside glider. Suddenly tracers shoot up from ground. Red threads cutting through sky. German flak guns open fire. Spotted formation. Shooting blindly in darkness, but density of fire high. Tracers everywhere. Reynolds hears impacts on glider fuselage. Boom, boom, boom. Bullets hit skin, pierce wood. But glider flies. From left, glider number 14 explodes in flames, hit by incendiary shell wing. Wood ignites instantly. Fire engulfs entire glider in seconds. Tow aircraft releases cable. Burning glider falls spiraling. Crashes into ground. Explosion. End for crew and tank. From right, glider number 23 takes hit and nose where pilot cabin. Tracer pierces through. Radio goes silent. Glider loses control. Starts yawing on cable. Tow aircraft tries hold, but cable tenses. Brakes, glider releases. Glides down, uncontrolled. Disappears in darkness. 2 gliders lost 2 minutes. Crews died. Tanks destroyed. 22:13. Drop point. Halifax radio operator commands. Release. Good luck. Reynolds jerks release lever. Cable shoots off with clang. Halifax pulls away forward and up. Reynolds alone in darkness at 600 feet altitude. Gliding begins. Nose drops. Speed increases to 155 miles per hour. Descent 6 feet per second. To ground maximum 90 seconds. Reynolds searches for landing site. According to map, should be field 1.5 miles south of Renville Village. Sees below dark village outlines. Roofs, church steeple. South should be field. Distinguishes light patch. That is it. Field 1,000 feet long. Narrow but sufficient. Turns glider, aims at field. Descends. Altitude 300 feet. 250. Flak still shooting. Tracers fly from all sides. One passes 3 feet from cockpit. Reynolds sees red streak. Hears whistle. 130 feet. 100. 65. Field ahead. Levels. Pulls stick with all strength. Glider transitions to level flight 10 feet above ground. Contact, softer than expected. Grass cushions, glider rolls, brakes, stops 150 feet from field edge. Perfect landing. Reynolds shouts to Mitchell. Sold unload tank, Mitchell already ready. Presses button, open glider nose. Hinges activate. Nose tilts up, revealing cargo bay. Mitchell engages gear. Tank drives down internal ramp. Tracks rumble. After 90 seconds, tank on ground. Rotates turret, ready for combat. Reynolds climbs from cockpit. Looks around. Other gliders landing one by one on different fields within mile radius. Counts. 8, 10, 12, 15. From 30 launched, 15 landed successfully. Where remaining 15 shot down over coast. Saw with own eyes. Remaining either crash landing or landed wrong place or still flying. Losses 50%. Terrible, Psalmon, but 15 tanks behind German lines are 15 tanks Germans did not expect. Innovation works despite cost. Mathematics proved correct despite blood. Mitchell drives tank to Reynolds. Shouts from hatch. Captain, thanks for delivery. Now our turn to work, tank rotates. Races toward village where gunfire already erupts. Paratroopers dropped earlier, storming German positions. 2 more tanks join Mitchell. Drive together. Reynolds hears thunder of shots. Explosions. Burst from automatic weapons. Battle began. And 8 kilometers away, Franz Weber in Foxhole will in 20 minutes see tank emerging from wooden giant and fail to comprehend how physics allow this. Will witness impossible. Will spend 31 years seeking answer. Will find it in reconciliation with American pilot who flew mathematics into German guns and survived through calculation, not luck. But Weber's shock comes next. Reynolds' work complete. Delivered cargo. Survived flight. Now must survive war. Must survive until letters from Sarah stack high enough to remind him why living matters. Must survive until father admits thinking defeated instinct. Must survive until apple pie tastes sweet again in Portland kitchen, where mother bakes and war feels distant as nightmare after waking. 15 tanks from sky. 50% losses. Innovation proven. Tradition defeated. D-Day succeeds not just through landing craft and paratroopers. Succeeds through wooden giants carrying steel beasts. Through mathematics defeating doctrine. Through men like Reynolds who think clearly when others panic. Through sacrifice of 15 crews who died so 30 tanks could fly. This is a story of how impossible becomes possible, how thinking saves lives, how innovation demands blood before becoming routine, how 78 pilots died in training so 42 could drop 30 tanks on Normandy, so 15 could fight, so 6 hours delay could save invasion, so war could end, so Weber and Reynolds could shake hands 31 years later, and understand that enemies become friends when mutual respect for engineering transcends hate. Part 3 tells what happens after tanks land. After Weber reports what he cannot explain. After Reynolds flies 18 more missions. After Market Garden disaster. After war ends and gliders burn and pilots return home and Sarah bakes pie and father apologizes and grandson flies C-130 and legacy continues. But for now, understand this. June 6, 1944, 22:15 hours. 15 wooden giants delivered 15 steel beasts behind German lines. Impossible accomplished. Physics bent. Mathematics victorious. And in Boston, 3,000 miles away, Sarah Reynolds does not know yet that husband survived. Does not know cable released safely. Does not know landing perfect. Does not know tank drove from glider nose exactly as calculated. Will not know for 2 weeks when letter arrives, blue paper, blue ink, vanilla scent. But somehow knows anyway. Knows because universe rewards thinking, rewards preparation, rewards transformation of impossible to possible through proper variable substitution at moment of maximum stress. She bakes another pie. Waits. Believes. Knows Michael calculates his way home because mathematics never betray those who trust them. 9:35 hours, June 6, 1944, 20 minutes after Reynolds landed. Franz Weber runs through Norman Forest. Behind him, explosions. Tank guns firing. German positions collapsing. His platoon scattered. 15 men dead. Machine guns destroyed. anti-tank guns overturned, and reason for defeat impossible to explain to commanders who were not there, who did not see. Weber reaches battalion command post 1 kilometer back, bursts into converted farmhouse. Major Krieger sits at table studying maps. Radio operator beside him monitoring frequencies. Kriegers looks up, annoyed at interruption. Sir Weber gasps, breathing hard. British airdrop tanks, giant gliders big as houses. Tanks drive straight from glider. 3 units captured Hill 120. Our platoon withdrew. Losses 10 men. Krieger stares at him like he speaks Chinese. Obergefreiter, are you wounded in head? Concussed tanks do not fly. They land from ships through docks. Maximum British can drop as paratroopers with light weapons. Tanks impossible. Sir, I swear. Saw with own eyes, tank drove from glider. Fired at our positions. Wooden aircraft wingspan maybe 30 meters. Nose opens like door. Tank inside drives out. Krieger stands, slams fist on table. I have no time for hallucinations. Return to your position. Reform platoon, hold the line. But sir, the tanks. There are no flying tanks. Dismissed. Weber salutes, exits. Knows what he saw. Knows physics should forbid it. Knows commanders will not believe until they see evidence. Until someone brings proof. Proof comes 2 hours later. Patrol sent to investigate returns with photographs. Wreckage of 3 giant gliders on field. Wooden construction. Wingspan confirmed 33 meters. Nose hinges visible. Inside cargo bay track marks from vehicles. Oil stains. Ammunition casings. And beyond wreckage, 3 burned-out British light tanks destroyed in subsequent fighting. Photographs reach Krieger, reach regiment, reach division, reach 7th Army headquarters, reach Army Group B, reach Field Marshal Erwin Rommel commanding all forces France. Rommel studies photographs in Paris headquarters. Frowns. Summons intelligence chief Colonel Friedrich von Hofacker. Is this confirmed British have gliders that deliver tanks? Absolutely, Field Marshal. Found glider remains. Interrogated captured British soldiers. They confirm aircraft called HAMILCAR. Purpose-built to deliver tanks and heavy equipment by air. Can land anywhere. Do not need airfield. Do not need roads. Just open field. Rommel silent for a minute. Stares at map of France. Coastline marked with defensive positions. Roads. Bridges. Based on assumption that British armor must land at ports. Must drive on roads. Must cross bridges, which can be destroyed. But if British drop tanks anywhere behind our lines, our entire defensive strategy is meaningless. Cannot protect rear from armor appearing from sky. This changes everything. Tanks no longer tied to infrastructure. Appear wherever they want. June 7, 1944. Wehrmacht headquarters, France issues urgent directive. All units strengthen anti-aircraft defenses. Destroy all large gliders upon detection. Priority number 1. Already too late. British air dropped in first 24 hours, 23 tanks by HAMILCAR gliders. All 23 captured key bridges and intersections behind lines. Delayed German reinforcements by critical 6 hours. Before Wehrmacht oriented what happened, Allies established beachhead on coast. Infantry dug in, artillery positioned, tanks rolling off landing craft in thousands. Innovation defeated tradition through surprise, through doing what enemy considered impossible, through proving that physics bend when engineering excellence meets desperate necessity. Weber survives June 6th, survives Normandy, survives retreat across France, survives Germany's collapse, surrenders to Americans April 1945, spends 2 years in POW camp, returns Munich 1947, finds city in ruins, finds wife Greta and children alive, finds job as civil engineer rebuilding bridges British and American bombers destroyed, works 30 years, designs 100 bridges across West Germany, applies same physics British used to fly tanks, stress calculations, load distribution, force vectors, mathematics that transcend nationality, that work for anyone willing to learn, but always remembers June 6, 1944, always remembers moment tank emerged from wooden glider, always remembers failure to comprehend, keeps notebook from that night, sketch of HAMILCAR drawn by firelight in foxhole, measurements estimated, questions written in German about how wood supports 15 tons, How glider achieves lift. How undercarriage survives impact. Takes Weber 31 years to find answer. 31 years to locate American pilot who flew it. 31 years to ask simply how. But before that reconciliation comes more war. More missions, more losses. Comes disaster called Market Garden. September 17, 1944. 1100 hours. Sky over Netherlands. Captain Reynolds again in HAMILCAR cockpit, but everything different. Not night, but bright sunny day. Not 600 feet altitude, but 3,000. Not 30 gliders, but 34. Operation Market Garden. Largest Allied airborne operation. Goal capture bridges over Rhine. Breakthrough into Germany. End war by Christmas. Reynolds looks down. Sees Earth like palm of hand. Dutch fields. Canals. Roads. Beautiful. Peaceful. Deceptive because somewhere down there, German flak guns wait. And unlike D-Day when flew at night and Germans shot blindly, now is day. Visibility perfect. Gunners see every glider, every tow aircraft, every target. Reynolds feels anxiety growing with every minute. Operation plan ambitious to madness. 3 airborne divisions drop along highway 45 miles deep. Capture bridges one by one. British Armored Division breaks through highway from south, connects with assault, crosses Rhine, enters Germany. On paper looks brilliant, like all plans before contact with enemy. But Reynolds fought long enough to know plans fail at first gunshot. Know that intelligence is often wrong. Know that Germans defend better than Allied commanders expect. 1120 formation crosses front line, now over occupied territory. Halifax radio operator reports distance. To drop point 12 miles. 10 minutes flight. Reynolds passes to Mitchell and tank. 10 minutes. Check systems. Mitchell responds calm. Everything ready, Captain. Engine warm. Ammunition loaded. Cannot wait to unload and drive into Germans. 11:25 first flak guns open fire. Not red trailers like night at missions. Black explosions. 88mm anti-aircraft guns firing at 3,000 feet. Heavy artillery. Explosions appear around formation. Black smoke puffs. Shrapnel flies all directions. One explosion 150 feet left from Reynolds. Glider shakes from shockwave. Shrapnel pierces wings. Whole size of fist appears in fabric. But glider flies. Structure holds. Glider number 8 ahead, not lucky. Explosion directly under nose. Shrapnel riddles cockpit. Kills both pilots instantly. Glider loses control. Falls spiraling. Tow aircraft releases cable. Glider crashes. Tank inside explodes from impact. Black smoke column rises from crash site. First loss. 11:30 flak intensifies. Now also shooting 20mm rapid-fire cannons. Tracers rise in solid wall. Red threads weave death net through sky. Halifax tow aircraft number 12 takes hit in engine. Motor number 2 explodes in flames. Pilot tries extinguish fire. Cannot. Fire spreads to wing. Halifax will burn completely. Crew ejects. Parachutes blossom. Burning aircraft falls. Glider number 12 auto-releases when cable goes slack. Pilot tries to reach ground but altitude 3,000 feet. Distance to drop 0.6 miles. Will not make it. Lands where falls. In swamp. Glider nose sticks in bog. Overturns. Tank crushes pilot cabin. Crew dies. Second loss. 11:35 drop point. Formation over Arnhem City. Below bridge over Rhine. Operation target. Command to release. Reynolds jerks lever. Cable shoots off. Glider free. But problem. From 3,000 feet gliding takes 7 minutes. And below, flak still shooting. Gliders without tow aircraft are defenseless. Slow. Awkward. Perfect targets. Reynolds puts glider into steep dive. 45 degrees. Speed increases to 185 miles per hour. G-force presses into seat. Descent 15 feet per second. Trying to quickly transit fire zone. Get below effective range. Altitude 2,000 feet. 1,500, 1,000. Flak reaches here too. Tracers fly upward to meet descending gliders. Reynolds maneuvers. Turn left, turn right. Glider yaws. Avoids some hits. Glider number 27 behind does not dodge in time. 20mm burst riddles fuselage, pierces cargo bay, hits tank. Ammunition detonates inside. Glider explodes in midair. Fireball. Debris falls in burning rain. Tank falls separately. Crashes. Kills everyone. Third loss. Reynolds counts mentally. 9 gliders destroyed. 25 remain. Losses 26% before landing. Altitude 600 feet. 500. 300. Reynolds searches landing site. According to plan, should be field at western Arnhem Edge. Sees field but not empty. German trucks. Infantry, guns, anti-aircraft positions. Landing there is suicide. They shoot before tank unloads. Searches other place. Sees right meadow by river. Smaller but free of enemy. Turns there. Descends. Altitude 150 feet. 100. 65. Landing hard. Meadow uneven. Bumps. Glider bounces. Hits. Fuselage groans. Undercarriage creaks. Holds. Stops by river itself. 30 feet to water. Reynolds commands Mitchell. Unload immediately. Nose tilts. Opens. Tank drives. Rotates. Sees 1,000 feet away. German column on road. Opens fire. First shot hits truck. Second armored transport. Direct hits. Germans scatter. But then Reynolds realizes scale of problem. Looks around. Sees other gliders landing on different meadows along river. Counts 8, 12, 15, 18, 19. From 34 launched, landed 19. 15 lost. Nearly half. Losses 44%. Catastrophic. And worse. Germans here in force. Intelligence promised weak garrison. Older soldiers, police units. But Reynolds sees with own eyes Panzer Mark IV rolling down road. Sees 2 more. 3. 5 tanks. German armor. Not weak garrison. Full-strength unit. Turned out intelligence catastrophically wrong. In Arnhem area, resting after battles was 9th SS Panzer Division Hohenstaufen. 200 tanks. 3,000 elite soldiers. British assault ran into them by accident. By terrible luck. By failure of reconnaissance. 19 light Tetrarch tanks against 200 German medium and heavy tanks. Mitchell and other commanders understand they are doomed. But no retreat. Bridge must hold until main forces arrive from south. Must hold 3 days minimum. 19 tanks fight. Mitchell destroys 7 German tanks over 3 days. Demolishes 3 armored transports. Holds intersection against repeated assaults. But 4th day, September 21st, his Tetrarch takes hit from 88mm shell in side armor. Penetration, fire. Crew evacuates. 4 men escape. Tank burns completely. Destroyed. Mitchell runs with crew toward British lines. Germans pursue. Machine gun fire. Mortar shells. 1 crew member hit. Dies. 3 reach safety. Mitchell among them. Survives but tank lost. From 19 tanks delivered by HAMILCAR gliders, by Operation End, survive 3. Rest destroyed in combat. Crews mostly evacuated, but equipment lost. Operation Market Garden ends in defeat. Bridge not captured. Assault withdrawn with huge losses. Triumph turned tragedy. Reynolds survives Market Garden. Flies away after unloading Mitchell. Returns England. Learns statistics. 15 of 34 gliders lost. 44% casualties. Worse than D-Day. Intelligence failure caused disaster. Dropping elite paratroopers into elite German division produced bloodbath. But lessons learned. Next operation will use smoke screens. We'll drop at dawn, not midday. We'll coordinate better with ground forces. Innovation improves through iteration, through failure analysis, through blood. Reynolds flies 4 more missions, autumn 1940. Then final mission, March 1945. Operation Varsity. Crossing Rhine into Germany itself, March 24, 1940. 0600 hours. Dawn breaking over Germany. 40 HAMILCAR gliders in formation. Lessons from Market Garden applied. Smoke screens deployed. Drop at low altitude. Coordination with artillery. Everything calculated to reduce losses. Reynolds flies 19th mission. Record among surviving pilots. Hayes beside him. Mitchell in different tank this time. New crew. New Tetrarch. Same determination. Altitude 1,000 feet. Smoke obscures ground. German gunners cannot see targets clearly. Flak reduced. Only 7 gliders lost from 40. 17.5% casualties. Acceptable by brutal mathematics of war. Reynolds lands successfully. Mitchell unloads. Tank drives into smoke. Joins assault. Operation Varsity succeeds. Rhine crossed. Germany's last natural barrier breached. War will end in 6 weeks. But victory costs. 7 more crews dead. 7 more gliders destroyed. 7 more families receive telegrams. Innovation demands blood even when perfected. Reynolds' 19th mission is last. April 1945, no more HAMILCAR operations needed. Germany collapsing. Tanks rolling across plains. Gliders obsolete. War ending. May 8, 1945. Germany surrenders. War in Europe finished. Act 6, Aftermath and Reckoning. RAF Airborne Forces Headquarters, London. May 1945. Colonel Richardson sits at desk, compiles final HAMILCAR statistics. Numbers tell story of triumph and tragedy. Success bought at terrible price. Record summary for War Ministry report. In 3 war years, built 344 HAMILCARs. Each glider required 4 weeks' work. Hundreds of workers. Tons of wood and metal. Cost per glider £3,000 sterling plus Tetrarch tank 7,000. Together 10,000 per set. 344 gliders is £3,440,000. Just gliders plus 2,408,000 tanks. Total £5,848,000 sterling. Nearly 6 million spent on program. From 344 built in combat operations, participated 246. Remaining 98 served for training tests, reserve. Richardson reviews operations list. Day June 6, 1944. 30 HAMILCARs, Operation Dragoon. Southern France, August 1944, 8 gliders. Market Garden, September 1944, 34 gliders. Operation Varsity, March 1945, 40 gliders. Plus minor operations. Supply drops. Wounded evacuation. Total 246 in combat. Losses. Most painful report section. 89 gliders lost irretrievably. 37 shot down by flak. 23 crashed landing. 11 lost from tow cable break. 9 from tow aircraft failure. 6 collided in air. 3 burned on ground from artillery fire. 89 from 246 equals 36%. Over 1/3 all combat gliders destroyed. Human loss is even more terrible. 178 glider pilots died during war. From them, 63 in combat operations. 115 in training flights and tests. Richardson stops at this number, reads again. 115 died before combat, simply learning to fly this monster. More than died in battle. HAMILCAR killed its pilots in training more effectively than Germans in combat missions. Statistics brutal, honest, necessary. Innovation demands sacrifice. 178 men paid so concept proved. So Churchill's impossible demand became reality. So tanks flew and bridges held and invasions succeeded and war ended. Was it worth it? Richardson writes in final report. 1,780 lives bought knowledge that tanks can deploy by air anywhere. That concept led to modern cargo aircraft, to C-130, to C-17, to every transport flying today. 178 lives bought future. Mathematics say yes, hearts say mourn them. August 1946. Program cancellation. Ministry of Aviation orders dissolution. HAMILCAR program closed. All gliders subject to disposal and utilization. Deadline 3 months. Reynolds by this time returned United States. Discharged September 1945. Sailed home. Arrived Boston October. Sarah waiting at dock. 4 years separated. War over. Future begins. But 190 HAMILCARs in Britain awaiting disposal. Wood rots. Transport to warehouses too expensive. Easier burn them on site. Ministry orders massive bonfire. September 12, 1946. RAF Tarrant Rushton Airfield where D-Day mission launched. 190 wooden giants lined up. Workers pour fuel oil over them. Light fires. Wood ignites. Flames rise 100 feet. Smoke visible for miles. 190 gliders burn simultaneously. Largest aviation bonfire in history. Witnesses watch in silence. Pilots who flew them. Mechanics who maintained them. engineers who designed them, watching innovation burn because war ended and peacetime has no use for wooden gliders carrying tanks. Only 13 HAMILCARs preserved, 8 transferred to museums, 3 sold private collectors, 2 left flight school as teaching aids. From 344 built, survived 13. Rest 331 disappeared, burned, rotted, scrapped. Innovation consumed by time, but legacy persists. Concept persists. Somewhere in California, Michael Reynolds applies lessons learned, helps design future. Act 7, Reconciliation and Legacy, Portland, Oregon. October 1945. Captain Michael Reynolds returns home, age 28, 5 years older than when he left. Lifetime older in experience. Discharged honorably. Medals in box, memories in head, scars invisible but present. Sarah waits at train station. First time seeing husband in 4 years except photographs. He steps off train, thinner, harder, eyes different, but alive, breathing. Home. They embrace. No words needed. She smells vanilla on his collar. He kept her letters, all of them. Blue paper, blue ink, vanilla scent faded but detectable. Parents wait outside station. Mother Eleanor cries. Father Colonel William stands at attention. Then breaks. Hugs son. First time Michael remembers father hugging him. You came home. You survived. Mathematics, father, just like Sarah said. Calculation kept me alive. Father nods, does not argue. Eyes show understanding that son's way was right way. That thinking defeated instinct. That different is not deficient when different brings man home breathing. They drive to family house. Mother baked apple pie. Granny Smith apples. Brown sugar. Cinnamon. Vanilla extract. Smell fills house. Smell of home. Smell of safety. Smell of everything Michael fought to preserve. Dinner that evening quiet. Pot roast. Mashed potatoes. Green beans. Then pie. Warm. Cream poured over melting into cinnamon filling. Michael eats slowly. Tastes every bite. First real apple pie in 5 years. British attempted but never matched American recipe. Never captured exact combination of sweet and tart and spice that means home. Father speaks over pie. I was wrong about you, son. I wanted warrior who charges. I got engineer who thinks. I was disappointed. I showed that disappointment. But you survived when warriors died. You prove calculation is courage. Different courage, but real courage. I apologize for not understanding sooner. Michael looks at father, sees moisture in old soldier's eyes. Understands this costs father. Admitting wrong, apologizing. Respecting different path. You taught me duty, father. You taught me service. You taught me that some things worth dying for. I just added mathematics to your lessons. Combined them, made something new that worked for me. They shake hands. Reconciliation over apple pie. Full circle from disappointment to respect. From conflict to understanding. From different paths to same destination, which is son alive and father proud. Reynolds settles in Portland. Sarah joins him. They buy small house, white picket fence, maple tree and yard, American dream after American war. Reynolds works Lockheed 1946, hired as aerospace engineer. Applies HAMILCAR lessons to cargo aircraft design. Hinge nose for quick unloading. Reinforced undercarriage for rough field landing. Large cargo bay for vehicles. All concepts from wooden glider now in metal aircraft with engines. Project assigned C-130 Hercules development. Military transport. Must carry heavy cargo. Land on unprepared strips. Unload quickly. Everything HAMILCAR did, but with turboprop engines instead of tow cable. Reynolds contributes to nose design. Argues for upward hinging like HAMILCAR. Engineers resist. Prefer rear ramp. Reynolds shows calculations. Proves nose loading faster by 90 seconds. 90 seconds matters in combat. 90 seconds saves lives. Design team accepts. C-130 gets hinged nose. First flight August 1954. Becomes most successful military transport in history. 2,500 built. Still flying 70 years later. Direct descendant of HAMILCAR concept. Every C-130 taking off carries Reynolds mathematics. Carries lessons bought with 178 pilots' blood. Carries innovation from wooden glider to modern workhorse. Reynolds also consults on C-17 Globemaster development 1980s, even larger transport. Can carry 70-ton Abrams tank. Lands on dirt runway, delivers armor anywhere. Exactly what Churchill demanded 1941, but with jet engines instead of Halifax tow. Reynolds rarely discusses war unless asked. When students or reporters interview about distinguished flying cross answers, brief. Factual, no drama. Did you fly combat gliders? Yes, 19 missions. Were you scared? Mathematics do not leave room for fear when calculations correct. Would you do it again if situation required? And physics supported yes. 3 children, 2 sons, 1 daughter. All inherit own analytical minds. All attend good universities. And all build productive lives. And all told stories about father who won war through thinking, through calculating, through proving innovation matters. 1970. Veterans Reunion, San Diego, California. Reynolds, age 58, retired from Lockheed 1974 after 28 years. 3 children grown. Sarah still teaching mathematics, Boston. Life quiet, productive, full of small moments accumulating into contentment. Attends reunion for Allied and Axis veterans. Reconciliation event. Attendance declining each year. Men dying, memories fading. But bonds remain among those who survived. Second day reunion. German man approaches Reynolds, about 60 years old. Gray hair, formal manner, face showing age and uncertainty, carrying weathered notebook. Excuse me, are you Captain Michael Reynolds, pilot who flew HAMILCAR glider over Normandy, June 1944? Reynolds confirms cautiously. Yes, who asks? My name is Franz Weber, Obergefreiter Wehrmacht during war, June 6, 1944. I was positioned 8 kilometers inland from Omaha Beach. I watched your glider land 300 meters from my foxhole. I watched tank drive from wooden aircraft. I could not comprehend how physics allowed this. Weber opens notebook, shows sketch of HAMILCAR dated June 6, 1944, detailed drawing with the annotations in German, technical notes, measurements, questions about how wood structure supports 15 tons. I drew this that night, tried to understand. Took me 31 years to find pilot who flew it. I became civil engineer after war. Designed our bridges West Germany, applied same physics you used, but I never understood how until I studied your HAMILCAR design years later. Weber pauses, meets Reynolds' eyes. You changed warfare through engineering, Captain Reynolds. You taught me innovation transcends nationality, that mathematics serve humanity regardless of which flag flies. I came to honor your achievement, to honor your comrades. Records show 178 pilots died flying HAMILCAR, 115 in training, 63 in combat. These men died proving impossible becomes possible when humans determined enough. Their sacrifice taught both sides that engineering courage matters as much as battlefield courage. Weber extends hand. Reynolds shakes it. Strange feeling shaking hand of man who tried to kill him 31 years ago. Man who shot at his glider. Man whose bullets killed friends. But also feels right. War creates enemies. Peace creates opportunity for understanding. Time heals wounds. Bullets create when bullets stop flying, and mathematics can be applied to living instead of surviving. They talk for 2 hours. About June 6 from different perspectives. About physics of combat. About understanding warriors on both sides followed orders. Did duty. Served countries through means available. Weber explains how HAMILCAR sightings spread through Wehrmacht. How reports describe bombers without engines carrying tanks. How German engineers tried to understand. How eventually captured gliders revealed British innovation Germans had not anticipated. Your HAMILCAR contributed to defeat not through destroying enemy, but through creating uncertainty. Through proving allies could innovate faster than we could adapt. Through demonstrating engineering excellence defeats numerical superiority when engineering properly applied. They exchange addresses. Correspond occasionally over next 2 decades. Weber visits Reynolds' home Boston 1983. Meets Sarah. Tells her husband's intelligence kept many alive both sides. That mathematics transcend war. That innovation serves humanity when shared instead of hoarded. Weber dies 1998, age 83 in Munich. Family sends obituary to Reynolds. Notes, Weber taught thousands of engineering students during career. Taught them innovation matters. That questioning doctrine valid when doctrine fails reality. That physics work for anyone willing to learn regardless of past conflicts. Reynolds attends memorial service via letter read by Weber's son. Letter expressing gratitude for reconciliation. For understanding, former enemies become friends when wisdom replaces hatred. When recognition of shared humanity overcomes division created by temporary conflicts. December 2003, Reynolds dies peacefully, age 86. Portland, Oregon, Sarah at bedside, children and grandchildren gathered. Quiet passing, no drama, just mathematics of life reaching natural conclusion. Heart stops, breathing ceases, existence transforms from physical to memory. Final words to Sarah barely whispered. We solved equation together. Transformation worked. Sarah lives 2 more years. Dies 2005, age 86. Buried together, cemetery, Portland. Headstone simple. Names. Dates. His mentions distinguished flying cross and HAMILCAR service. Hers mentions beloved wife, mathematics teacher. Both mention love because love made mathematics matter. Love made survival important. Love made innovation necessary because coming home to someone who understands makes surviving worthwhile. But real legacy, not medals or headstones. Real legacy lives in every C-130 flying, in every C-17 delivering tanks to battlefield, in understanding that intellect is courage, that calculation saves lives, that innovation matters when tradition fails. 2020 from National Museum of the United States Air Force, Dayton, Ohio, group of Air Force Academy cadets stands before restored HAMILCAR. Only one in United States. Brought from British Museum, 1995. Fully restored. Fresh paint, intact fabric. Hinged nose demonstrates loading mechanism. Instructor Colonel David Thompson, military aviation historian lectures. This is British HAMILCAR glider. Built 1942. Designed to carry 7-ton tank without engine. 344 built. 89 lost in combat. 190 burned after war. Only 15 survive worldwide. This is one. Shows statistics cadets record in notebooks. 178 pilots killed total. 55% mortality rate. Higher than bomber crews. Higher than fighter pilots. Why? Because HAMILCAR was experimental technology. Unproven. Dangerous. Pilots volunteered knowing odds but flew anyway because innovation required sacrifice. One cadet raised his hand. Sir, was it worth it? 178 lives for wooden glider that got replaced by C-130 within 10 years. Thompson considers carefully. Depends how you measure worth. As weapons platform, HAMILCAR obsolete by 1950. As technology demonstrator, changed military aviation forever. Proved heavy cargo could be delivered anywhere by air. That concept led to C-130, C-17, C-5 Galaxy. Every modern cargo aircraft descends from HAMILCAR innovation. So 178 lives bought knowledge that saves thousands today through better logistics. Was it worth it? Those 178 cannot answer. But soldiers they saved might say yes. Another cadet asks, Sir, any Americans flew HAMILCAR? Thompson nods. Yes. Captain Michael Reynolds, American volunteer RAF 1940 to 1946. Flew 19 HAMILCAR combat missions. Record, survived. Returned to United States. Helped design C-130 Hercules using HAMILCAR lessons. Died 2003. His great-grandson is Captain James Reynolds, currently flying C-130's 746th Airlift Squadron. 4th-generation military pilot. Legacy continues. At back of cadet group stands Captain James Reynolds, age 28. Great-grandson, listening to story about great-grandfather he never met but heard about all life. Story about engineer who became pilot. About mathematician who survived through calculation. About American who flew British glider, carrying British tank over French fields, fighting German army, and proved innovation transcends nationality. James touches HAMILCAR fabric. Wooden construction. Hinges on nose. Imagines great-grandfather sitting in cockpit 80 years ago. Holding controls. Fighting turbulence. Landing 15 tons of wood and steel on dark field under enemy fire. Surviving through mathematics when others died from instinct. Understanding that courage has many forms. Some obvious, some hidden, but all necessary, all valuable, all deserving respect. Class ends, cadets disperse. James remains moment longer. Silent respect for great-grandfather he never knew. For 177 other pilots who died proving impossible possible. For understanding that sometimes progress requires sacrifice, and those who sacrifice deserve being remembered, even when machines they flew become obsolete and world moves on. After museum, James drives to local diner, orders lunch, looks at menu, sees apple pie was listed for dessert, orders it. Waitress brings slice warm with cream melting into cinnamon filling. James takes bite, tastes sweetness, tastes spice, tastes vanilla in filling, reminding him of great-grandmother Sarah's letters preserved in family archive. Blue paper, blue ink. Vanilla scent long faded but story remaining. Pie tastes like home, tastes like legacy, tastes like understanding that great-grandfather flew wooden giants into hell and returned alive to eat mother's apple pie and build C-130 and raise family and prove that thinking saves lives when instinct kills. James finishes pie, pays bill, drives back to base. Tonight he flies C-130 training mission, delivers cargo, practices assault landings, applies lessons great-grandfather helped create 80 years ago when wooden glider carried tank and innovation defeated tradition, and mathematics proved that impossible becomes possible when humans determined enough to transform dreams into equations and equations into machines and machines into reality regardless of cost. HAMILCAR legacy lives not in wood and fabric and museum. Lives in every C-130 landing on dirt strip in combat zone. Every C-17 delivering tanks to battlefield. Every innovation that says tradition insufficient, let us try different way. Lives in understanding that 178 lives bought lesson worth teaching. That impossible becomes possible when humans determined enough. That innovation demands blood before becoming routine. That sacrifice has meaning when sacrifice builds future. Captain James Reynolds finishes coffee, returns to flight line, walks toward C-130 waiting on ramp. 4 turboprop engines, hinged nose, large cargo bay, direct descendant of the wooden glider great-grandfather flew. Before boarding touches fuselage, metal cold under hand, whispers words only he hears. Thank you, grandfather, for thinking clearly, for calculating carefully, for surviving when mathematics said most would not, for building future where I can fly safely what you flew dangerously, for proving innovation matters and sacrifice has meaning and thinking saves lives. Then climbs aboard, starts engines, taxis to runway, takes off into blue sky, carrying cargo and legacy and understanding that sometimes best way to honor dead is to live well and fly safely and remember that progress costs, but forgetting costs more. HAMILCAR is dead. Long live HAMILCAR's children. And somewhere in memory, Michael Reynolds sits in Portland kitchen eating mother's apple pie and smiling because grandson flies and innovation continues and mathematics still defeat instinct when properly applied, and love still makes survival worthwhile, and transformation still solves equations tradition cannot see. Full circle, from impossible to possible, from wood to metal, from tow cable to turboprop, from sacrifice to legacy, from war to peace, from enemy to friend, from death to life. Innovation demands blood, but innovation also builds future. And future flies on wings mathematics designed, and courage tested, and sacrifice purchased, and memory preserves. The wooden giant flew, tanks fell from sky, bridges held, war ended. Men came home, children were born, legacy continued. And that ultimately is why 178 died. Not for glory, not for medals, not for history, for future. For grandson eating apple pie and flying C-130 and touching museum glider and understanding that great-grandfather's mathematics still save lives 80 years later. Worth measuring not in pounds or lives or glory. Worth measuring in every safe landing, every successful mission, every pilot who survives because someone 80 years ago proved thinking matters. Mathematics transcend time. Innovation serves generations. Sacrifice echoes forward. The wooden giant flew so metal eagles could soar. And that is legacy enough for any man, for any mission, for any sacrifice. Amen.